Now that you're all present here, we've started with the lamp lighting. Our very first panel is on business of design, acquiring and retaining clients, management and execution. Of course, with a big round of applause, let's have on stage, if you are not already, architect Manish, banker, principal architect, Tau Architecture, Pune. Big rolling round of applause. Manish ji, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being with us. Our next panelist is architect Harkaran Boparai, Principal Architect, Space 5, Amritsar and Delhi. Thank you so much for being with us. So you've actually come from Amritsar? आप अमृतसर से हैं? अच्छा दिल्ली में अरे वाह ब्यूटीफुल प्लेस अमृतसर बाय द वे डॉक्टर ऑस्कर कॉन्सेसा पार्टनर ऑस्कर एंड पोनी प्लस राहुल आर्किटेक्ट चेन्नई ज़ोरदार तालियां हो जाए फॉर डॉक्टर ऑस्कर Architect Gunjan Das, Principal Architect, NG Associates, Bangalore. Thank you so much, Gunjan ji, for being with us. Architect Sanjay Bharadwaj, Partner Team 3, Delhi. Thank you so much, Architect Sanjay. And of course, ending the panel with Architect Madhav Raman, Principal Architect, Anagram, Delhi, who's of course, who's the moderator. Mr. Manish Banker couldn't make it. Unfortunately, he's not keeping well right now. So we wish you a speedy recovery. And yes, leaders, stage is all yours. Let the panel begin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. And I think welcome to the first wait that's happening at Yasho Bhumi. I'm sure at least for a bunch of us who are from Delhi, this is perhaps the first time we've come here. I don't know if we visited before. Uh, the subject for this panel is the business of design, and especially what we've been asked to talk about is how we acquire and retain clients. Now, in any business, that's always the magic sauce, and that's always the key missing link, because we are all in various ways and forms entrepreneurs and have to deal with the risk of how one grows one's business. So in order to grow one's business, one has to have, think of various ways in which one can increase the client base, as it were, the kind of people who would come to us for our services. We have with us a really diverse panel. It's diverse in terms of size, scale, the kind of projects they do, the locations they operate out of, and also the nature of the firms in the way they are structured around the founders, the relationships the founders have, and so on and so forth. So what I'll do is I'll ask every one of the panelists to very briefly introduce, not themselves, because they're all fairly well known, but introduce very briefly their firms. Ideally in terms of what type of firm it is, how long you've been in business, what are the kind of locations and geographies you operate out of, where you execute projects, and what is it you would consider your domain expertise. So Sanjay, shall we start with you?
Hello. My name is Sanjay Bharadwaj. I am a partner at Team 3 Architects in Delhi. We are a partnership firm of 3 partners, very original name, Team 3. We are a group of about 30 architects and some support staff. We're based in Delhi, and we look at architecture, interior design, master planning kind of projects. We work a lot with private clients, corporates, developers, real estate developers, and some institutional work as well. We actually haven't done any government projects, so that's one sector that we haven't touched at all. We are doing work pretty much all over India, except for Western India. You know, for some reason I mean, I know the reason, but we haven't been able to.
Better architects?
we've not been able to crack Mumbai, Pune, that part at all. And so we don't have any work there. But apart from that, south, east, central, north, of course, we have work. Yeah.
Gunjan.
Good morning. I'm Gunjan Das. I'm a partner at NG Associates, an architecture and interior design firm, which I run with my husband now for the last 30 years. Ours started as a very young practice, but started by two very senior retired people. My father-in-law had retired as chief architect of Karnataka, and his friend had retired as chief architect of ISRO. So it was very different when we, as young, graduates, we had done a master's from the US, came back, joined them, and that's the practice. We run a small firm of 12 to 15 people, and our domain is mostly institutional works. Of course, we touch upon a lot of residential and other projects, and I predominantly work with residential interiors.
Oscar.
A very good morning. Our firm name is Ponni, Oscar and Raul Architects. We are a partnership firm. We are educated at NIT Trichy, then we got our education in the US and worked there for around 9 years. Returned to India in 1996, started our office in Chennai. Since then, we've been working on several verticals, right from urban design, architecture, interiors, and even historic preservation. The recently completed project is a very marquee project, the Telangana State Secretariat, Hyderabad. Ours is a medium-sized firm, which is around 40 people constantly, but it scales up based on the project size. If you keep getting larger projects, we scale up from 40 to 70, but at the moment it's around 40. We have done projects in most of the cities in India, projects in Andaman, Havelock Islands, Malaysia, and few projects in Middle East. Happy to be in the field of architecture.
Thank you, Oscar. Harkaran, we'll end with you.
Yeah, so hi, this is Harkaran. I am the principal at Spaceweb Architects. We started back in 2018 and we are based out of primarily Delhi, Amritsar and Chandigarh, expanding to Emirates now. As a practice, we specialize in marquee living spaces with a total designer base of more than 60 plus people working across different domains of urban planning, residential, furnitures. As a practice, we believe that any segment of work, be it residential, be it commercial, be it institutional, should carry the nature of work that is marquee and experiential. And that's been the motto of my work ever since I started.
Thank you. So as you guys can see, the panel is not just diverse and it's in its kind of width of the kind of work that they all do, but you can also see there are different types of partnerships, there are siblings, partners for lives involved, there's a lot of sizes varying from about 30 to 40 to 15 to 20. As you can imagine, these sort of diversity can also be looked at as various lenses of how to run a business. So in that spirit, let's start the first little bit of how to go about acquiring and retaining clients. And that's always a tough one. So it's good to have so many lenses to look at that problem. Again, I'll ask you guys to jump in with your thoughts. These are merely indicative directions. I'm sure you can't generalize to such an extent. The thing is that it's good to have lots of clients, but it's got to have lots of good clients. Amongst architects and designers, there's this unknown entity called the good client. So I'll start with asking all of you who your favorite client is. Now, I want to make a distinction. These are not dream clients. These are clients you actually have or have worked with, who you consider. You don't need to take names or drop names or anything. But if I were to ask you for a generic client type, what kind of work would they come to you for? How would they get in touch? What are the kind of working relationships you guys prefer to have with your clients? So in a sense, where do you want to go with your client base? If you were allowed to shed the clients you didn't like. Anyone? Harkaran, as the youngest.
So, hello. Yes, the favorite client for my personal practice has been somebody who is wholeheartedly trusts the hands that he has given his work into. So there is a client based in East, and they are getting one of their residential farmhouses developed across a lakefront. And somebody who throws the entire onus onto the architect, believes on the vision of the architect, that is a preferable client, especially for a practice who is wholeheartedly involved in the design process. That's one of the favorite clients, plus a client that is willing to allow you to practice and experiment. What fun of hiring an architect if they are not able to understand your design language and what you are sculpting for them? So that is one of the core essential, especially in a country like ours. We need more clientele which allows all these genius architects to experiment. More the experimentation is there, the better the projects come out to be.
Cool. That's, I mean, you're 4 years old as as a firm?
We started in 2018,
2018,
December.
so 4 or 5. No, I have to say, 6 years, right? So that would be anyone's perfect client. And kudos if, you know, for residential projects in particular, if you have a client who trusts you implicitly, the kind of time it takes to nurture that relationship is, I mean, it's clearly there are some convincing skills that you have that I'd like you to share as you go along. You know, the other thing I forgot to actually add a tag on question, and I'd ask the three of you to tag that onto your answer as well, other than your favorite client. What do you, Harkaran, let's very briefly ask you, what do you see as this thing that when they come and pay you a fees, what are they actually investing in? What do you think they value in your services?
My answer is going to be a little bit different from what particularly the answer should be. I believe that as an industry, what I am trying, I don't know whether I have done it or not, but I am in the practice of not selling a service but a product. And if somebody is coming to me, they are buying my product and they are buying my experience. Unless we shift from the mindset of selling service and unless we jump onto the board of selling a product, even though it's your design. So when that product, that is something that is tangible, people see that and they're willing to pay, let's say, 2x, 3x more than what would they normally pay for that kind of a work. Example, you get a Sabyasachi bridal wear sitting at 10 lakh. Similar bridal wear from Amritsar will get you at 2 lakh. You are paying for the brand and for the product that that person is selling, even if the craftsman is shame. So that kind of a thing is the difference.
Oscar?
Yeah, I would like to categorize there are three types of clients. One is a private client. Another one could be semi-private, could be corporates or NGOs, campuses where there are boards. And third category is more of governmental projects, government clients. I'll give you a case of the recently completed project done by architect Ponni and myself, the Telangana State Secretariat. It was a national design competition we won. After we won, we had to work directly with the chief minister. He had a design workshop with Ponni and myself for almost 3 weeks. We used to have meetings from 3 in the afternoon to almost midnight, 11 to 12 hours at a stretch, no breaks, and used to have his other cabinet ministers, the chief secretary, IS officers, the nodal agency, the roads and building department, some states they call it PWD, around 60, 70 people. He went through all our drawings, floor by floor, look at the spatial adjacencies. He devoted so much of time. And because they've been working in the sector, they knew the nuances, how certain spaces have to be linked to each other. So we used to get all the drawings, kind of work during the night, and there's a meeting again the next day at 3 p.m. So it was a fast-track project and happened during peak of COVID, July 2020. July 2nd, 2020, we got a call from the CM. From July 5th, 2020, the design workshop started for around 2 or 3 weeks. So the intense work round the clock because, as I said, it was peak of COVID. All the offices were shut down. We were working remotely in Tamil Nadu and certain parts of Hyderabad, getting the drawings done through the night through Zoom, WhatsApp, and we had to project the drawings very fast and showcase it to this CM who had a big LED wall on 30 feet by 20 feet, and is to project all the drawings, even the 3D views. He'll zoom even the 3D views, mind you. So we got all the drawings done. And then we learned how government really functions. They expect everything fast. We cannot give any excuses to them. So we used to work around 18 to 20 hours a night, Pony, myself. And then once we got the project kind of satisfied to his satisfaction with all the agencies, then it went to a government order. They had to get administrative sanction for the amount. Then there was a technical sanction. After the technical sanction, we had to do all the BOQs, tender preparations. In the meantime, we set up a satellite office in Hyderabad, around 40 to 50 people. We had to hire staff because staff from Chennai was reluctant to come to Hyderabad because of COVID. It was a very challenging, excruciating situation, but we can't let the Chief Minister down. And he personally told Ponni and me the last day when he signed off, he threw us a banquet too, and he told us, you guys are doing this for the people of Telangana. I expect you guys to be here almost every day, take care of my project. And he used to come for reviews every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And the first thing he'll ask architect Ponni, is this going as per the designs I discussed with you? And if there's something not going right, he'll catch hold of the contractor Shapuji and Palanji and tell them, do it as what the architects tell you. So what I'm trying to tell you is, working with the government also is very nice, but extremely challenging in time duration because you have to complete the project in 2 years and you cannot let the government down because they always fight elections. So dealing with a private client is more fun because very personal, but dealing with the government, you're dealing with different hierarchies, right from chief ministers to ministers, the cabinet secretaries, and then the departments. And each of them have their different egos. You have to satisfy them. So it was wonderful in the sense we learned a lot how to deal with governments.
So to kind of capture before we move to Gunjan, so there is this idea of finding this ideal client who trusts you implicitly. But equally, when there are projects that have multiple stakeholders, it's good to have someone who is the head of all those stakeholders who you collectively call your clients, who is as impassioned about the project as you are, who kind of drives you harder, so that the work that you're putting in, that if it was for these multiple stakeholders, I imagine the quantity of work also sharply increases. That's not underappreciated or undervalued because from the client side, you have someone like the Chief Minister that you mentioned, who is equally putting himself through the paces or coming along with you for that tough journey. What about you, Gunjan?
So I agree with what they spoke about, the client giving you the freedom, giving you, having a lot of trust and faith in you.
First, favorite client.
Favorite, I think a client which challenges you to do better because you are going to work sincerely with all your projects. And if the client is satisfied at your first cut or second cut, then you kind of, leave it at that.
Really? Wouldn't you celebrate that it's happened immediately?
I find when clients are more involved, when they challenge you more, not that they don't trust you, but I feel those projects come out really well and those are more satisfying to you creatively. So I always tell my clients, like the client, we as designer, and then the contractor. All three of us have to play our roles 100%. That's when a project turns out really well.
And what do you think your favorite clients, what do they value most in your firm's, the work that your firm does?
I think that I listen to them and give them time. I think that's one of the most important things.
You spend time with them.
I spend a lot of time with them, yeah.
And this is just you heading the residential part of the practice, or is this a sort of a value system in the firm?
It is a value system, but definitely in the residential domain, you have to be a little more personally involved, definitely. And I think that is maybe the USP that I work with.
Okay, thanks. Sanjay, from amongst our varied varieties of clients that we get exposed to in Delhi, who's your favorite Delhi client? Not Delhi, your Indian client.
See, the good qualities of a client is somebody who has a vision. And, at the end of the day, the entire, the whole crowd of people who are working on a project, it's only two people who have a vision. It's the client and you as the architect, okay? And nobody else has that complete
Project
vision.
manager, contract,
Or
no vision.
No,
Myopic.
Absolutely none. Okay.
Deadline to deadline.
Deadline to
Plinth
deadline.
to
So
scaffolding.
it's very important to get somebody who can sort of, you sort of match the vision with. Secondly, I think it's important that the client understands that yours is a process and a service which is given through managing a diverse team and are willing to appoint that team on day one. So that whole complex process of putting a project together can start holistically, and so it's a constant education sometimes that you have to sort of do with clients. But the projects that turn out the best are people, I mean, where your entire design team is available to you very early on in the project. And yeah, so what was
No, so what do they value in what Team 3 does? What do you think they value the most?
I think there's the classic, those three approaches, right? I mean, there's expertise, experience, and efficiency, and they all come in at different stages of the project. So in early stages, it is the expertise, then it is the experience and expertise combination, and later when you're in the production mode, it is the efficiency with which you do it. And when you're working with clients who are large organizations, you are working with different aspects of their organization, and then those different departments will want different sort of things from you.
So as you can see, actually, coincidentally, they seem to be arranged in a sort of range from, say, Harkaran, who likes clients that allow him the sort of intellectual freedom, the design creative freedom, is willing to share, trust him to have the sort of commitment that will carry a vision through, relying on you very much for the vision. To Oscar and Gunjan, and even to a certain extent Sanjay, who kind of talk about clients having visions and coming to you to try and fructify that. Clients being able to come to you and say that, look, I'm going to push you hard. Will you be, challenge you in that sense? That if I push you hard, will you make better architecture? Obviously, you all have to understand this has got to do with different types of projects as well. And I think many of these sort of learnings about what is the nature of clientele for architecture and design very often starts from the day you start your practice. And it's an ongoing learning that you have as you work through your own scaling up and scaling down. Your own favorite client will keep changing. You just have to be a little more self-aware as a firm to know where you are and what the ideal clientele for that sort of firm at that point in time is. As I said, we've got practices that span decades and practices that span a few years. If I were to ask all of you, we'll go back down this line, Sanjay, since you're organized as a panel so sharply. We'll start with Sanjay, we'll go down to Harkaran. If I were to ask you that if you reflect back to when you first founded the firm and where you are today, if you were to take a broad overview, what's been your most successful method of growing your client base? Success in terms of, you can measure it in terms of number of pitches to number of conversions or number of sort of people you met and worked on, and what's been, or is it just a service offering? Is it just an optimization or diversification? What's been the best, most successful way that you've seen in your particular span? And just remind the audience how many years you've been in.
Okay, so I've been in practice now for more than 30 years, like about 30 years. So I think the best way our practice has grown is with repeat clients.
Repeat clients.
Repeat clients,
So you have to nurture the client base.
Yeah, absolutely. But getting new business is a constant process. You cannot let go of it at any time. Right from cold calling to going and making pitches, introductory meetings, and projects take a long time to actually come to the table, I mean, it takes sometimes over a year after having first met the client to finally get a project from them. And it's a long process that you have to go on and on doing. A lot of this presence in social media helps. I don't think it has ever resulted in an actual new client or or a project. But I think it's important for people to know that you're there and to be in the sort of
Be also able to access your work.
yeah. So that's very useful. Sometimes you have to make pitches for projects that you really want. That also helps. So though we try to avoid doing that.
What's been your most successful?
Most successful?
In your like gut feeling, what do you think is that really worked for you?
I think it's word of mouth and repeat clients and references from repeat clients. I think
That's been the most
that has been
stable
the
and successful.
Most stable
Yeah.
and successful.
Predictable way of growing. Right. Gunjan, and please respond as you go along to prior what people have said. Specifically, nurturing clients that Sanjay says is not just effort. Like you said, you spend a lot of time with clients. All that time and effort, do you feel that those guys are able to compensate you financially? Because after all, it's a team of people that you need to pay to work for this. So just if you could respond to some of that as well.
So, financial compensation for the time you put in may not be always proportionate. We would like it to be better. But
Like it to be better, but
definitely.
clearly it's working up to a certain point, right?
it is working, and I think the key is
Better
that
is
it's
always better.
improving.
More is
It's
better.
improving as you're growing.
It is. So as you
And-
go old, as the practice grows older and older, the sort of fee structure improves, let's say.
Yes, the scale of the projects are
So
improving,
it's
increasing.
the scale that becomes
Yes.
bigger, and hence the earnings are more.
So it's also like what he said, no, word of mouth, repeat clients, and there was one more thing you said.
Referrals.
Reference,
Same
yeah.
thing he said,
so
3 words.
Exactly, that's exactly our way of growing clients. But I think now that we've been in practice for 30 years, I can see that, for want of a better word, the quality of the clients has improved a lot. So I think that's a good sign, and that does translate to better business.
Interesting.
And more evolved clients, more aware clients, more exposed clients, more trusting clients, which makes it a lot more enjoyable to work, and you are definitely better rewarded also.
That's interesting. That actually the more time, it's actually the opposite of a jail, right? You put in time to reform yourself, but in the case of running a firm, you're putting in time in order to reform the client. So eventually a better client comes. Oscar, what about you?
Yeah. The first client we got while we were in the US, Puni and Oscar worked on a competition for a 200-acre campus for NRI, and he was based in Washington, D.C., and the project was in Salem, Namakkal. We did all the designs in the US, and he said, Oscar, I want to start building this project. So I said, fine. Puni's house is in Chennai. We'll move to Chennai. This guy's local headquarters also in Chennai. So we started working on this 200-acre campus. So, campus has lots of buildings. So repeat buildings, we kept going because we performed and we exceeded the client's expectations. So once we moved in 1996, seeing this campus, we got a lot of calls from other campus developers, word of mouth.
So this is within a particular sector,
Education.
educational, institutional.
You're right.
So it's not just word of mouth generally on
No, no.
web or social
No,
media
no.
or on magazines
In
or on
96,
panel
there's not much of
discussions.
social media. Even the internet was...
So how
really-
does this sector-specific word of mouth work? Do they get in touch with you?
Yeah.
Do you get to meet them in some sort of situation?
The second client was a politician from a DMK party. He had a couple of engineering colleges, and the works done by the earlier architects, the consultants, were not very good. So he called us and he told us to give some concepts. Very happy, and we keep buildings. Even now, we are building in his campus. So that's how the word of mouth goes. Then some other campus developer comes, he sees these buildings, he finds them very interesting, and he wants something new on his campus. So likewise, the past 27 years or so, we have done 100-odd campuses. But then, just doing campuses is not our bread and butter. We like to do more challenging projects. We started meeting developers in Chennai.
You went and met
Yeah,
them.
we knocked on the doors.
Cold
Not
call.
that we love doing work with developers. We knocked on their doors. We were very selective in taking work of developers because most of the time they take concepts from you and they disappear because they have in-house teams to develop the projects. So we were very choosy. Our bulk of our projects come through competitions. Around
Competition.
60% of the work
Very
comes to
interesting.
competitions. Even now.
Do you have a team in your office that works specifically on
No,
competition?
basically, Pony and myself drive the ship. Hands-on, top-down approach. We craft all the designs personally. We have a team to start developing the concepts, do 3D modeling, SketchUps, and things
So
like that.
it's the same team, whether it's a competition entry or a concept design for a beginning of a new secured
Yeah.
project.
Pony and myself are involved top-down,
And then it's
right
the
from
same kind
beginning.
of team. There's no
Yeah,
specialty.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
then, as I said, repeat clients are the best. Then you have influencers. They can help you get some leads. Once you get the leads, you have to pitch for this project because there'll be half a dozen architects
Explain
trying.
the influencer. Explain who that is.
Suppose you are my client and you're very happy with my work. You may be having friends. Those friends may be putting projects. So we should catch all of your friends.
So
they can influence.
you should have an awareness that your client is also an influencer.
Yes.
So this word of mouth that happens within a sector
Yeah.
is possibly driven by that. So you should actually understand the worth of your client
You're right.
as your messenger or
Yeah.
as your advertiser.
And you tap into his network. So you keep building different networks, keep getting projects. But I find, Pony and myself find competitions are the best because there you can showcase your creativity, you compete with the best of architects. Now, how do you get into competition? Most of the time, they open competitions. Sometimes there is an empanelment, especially government organizations. Sometimes they call for RFQs, requests for proposals, RFP and RFQ. You take part in that. It's like a lottery, not that you win all the time.
Sorry, I think Harkaran is waiting very patiently. I have one specific question. Empanelment you mentioned.
Yeah.
We all know that at least now going forward for the next 10 years, governments in India, state government and central government, are going to be one of the biggest, I won't say clients, but people who are entities that are spending money on architecture, infrastructure, real estate, urban development. It is going to be a government entity. Did you start the process of empaneling yourself with various government authorities or entities right from the get-go when you started way back, or is it something you suddenly, this is to you, Oscar, this is to you, yeah, or is it something you suddenly realized that, oh, we should start doing this and then you started doing it?
Honestly, for the first 5 years, we didn't have turnover. Most of the government organizations look for a hefty turnover. So once we got a bit of turnover, we started empaneling for the smaller projects. And that's how we get invited for competitions. So now we see that we empanel every year because most of the empanelment lasts for 3 or 5 years. But we are very selective in getting ourselves empaneled too. We don't want to.
So you select the empanel, you don't just blindly
No,
get
no,
yourself.
no, no, blindly. Because we personally select where we should empanel. We also look at their track record of their buildings. Because sometimes you empanel and they do a shoddy job, you get a bad name. Very particular about our brand because ultimately architects all build a brand. Brand is very important to get a repeat client. And for the influence also, your brand as an architect helps a lot. Only
You have
then
to
you
be
can get
sellable.
work, or else you won't get work. Brand equity is very important for architects. The social media, networking, website, publications, very, very important.
Cool, thank you. Harkaran, your sort of, so 6 years, but you had very rapid growth in 6 years. You are in multiple locations, different geographies. I'm imagining if your work ranges from architecture down to furniture, the clientele is also very different. So if you were to take a broad sort of look on it, for your particular type of firm, what's been the most successful way in which you found you grow your clients?
I feel that whatever clientele that we have, client is always there. It's a whole market that there is. What matters the most is your projection. What is the projection of your studio? And projection.
In social media,
No,
projection?
projection is your 3 pillars that I define in my work. First is gonna be your design ethos, then it's gonna be your client service, and then is your power to say no. Let us say there is an entire market. How brightly do you shine to attract the right person towards your practice? You don't want everybody. I don't want everybody to be my client. I want those people who are right basket fit for my ethos, who honor my ethos, who love the practice I do, who love the kind of ethos I project. That kind of a shining magnet is one of the core essentials. If you want to
how
make
would you go about doing that? How do you
so
do
as a young practice, in the very start, we defined that it was ingrained in my heart as well as in the heart of my principal designers. So there is an executive body in my practice.
You guys discuss this amongst yourselves? This
Absolutely. Absolutely. The vision, the mission, the projection,
Is it a constant discussion?
constant retribution every year. What did we fail last year? Okay, why did we not crack that particular client and what did we miss in this one? So that definition goes on and on. Once that goes on, normally people say that nowadays, there's social media, people just put up on Instagram or Pinterest. I feel world has been the same. Go back 50, 60 years when Corbusier made Chandigarh. He was hired by Pandit Nehruji from France. How did he know? Corbusier's modern ethos were very rightly projected. That projection matters. No other sort of PR and marketing and getting influencers will work unless your projection is right. Once your projection is perfect, you got to amplify that. You'll get as many clients as you want, then you just gotta take them, serve them, and it goes on and on. It compounds. That's been my
Okay.
work.
So broad takeaways here are basically you need to curate your own clients. You need to sort of understand who they are, what their value to you is as a personal ambassador. As Harkaran said, there needs to be a fair clarity in what is the nature of projects that you want to do. People should be able to read that in your work so that there is clarity on why they are coming to you other than just a cheaper fees or a quicker job or so on and so forth. I think, do we have time? 5 minutes? All right, so then one more round of this thing. Harkaran, we'll start with you and we'll come back down to me. Then we can end with me. Growth is great. Having more and more clients are great. But this has repercussions within the firm. So if I could ask all the lenses on this panel to look inwards, just as you've looked outwards so far, how have you thought of leadership roles in your firm? That because I'm working on the assumption that it is leadership within a firm that helps grow a client or acquire clients, whether it's through competitions or personal networks, or the whole range that you discussed. It's actually or as Harkaran said, it's very important that everyone in the leadership role agrees on or has clarity on what the core values of a firm are. How do you, Harkaran, let's start with you. How do you, you're too young for me to say how have you. How do you plan to grow your leadership in this manner that ensures that your clients are large in number and happy clients? What do you think is the key?
Again, it's the same thing. Once your ethos are correct, you got to find the right people in your practice.
So within your practice?
Within your practice, who can understand you and then give them a power to take decisions. I'll put it in a form of example.
Do you constantly text your
I'll give you an
employees?
example how that is done. So in one of my projects, we are working for a heritage street in Dhuri. Dhuri is a small town in Punjab. For the current sitting government in Punjab, they hired us because of the ethos that we have. And we are talking directly at the level of cabinet secretary, but I'm not the person who is talking to them. One of my executive body members talks to them, and it's clear to them as well that it is equally as good as Harkaran if that other person is talking. Giving them the power to take decision. And once your staffers, your employees feel the power that, oh my God, we have this much amount of power, that Harkaran is trusting us on this big client of his, they work their best for as long as they're working for you. And then that becomes a culture. People will join you with that kind of a mindset. And that goes on and on.
And so it will proceed. Oscar?
Pony and myself are very fortunate because our son Rahul is an architect who has joined our firm. So leadership role is kind of taken care of. But nevertheless,
And after him?
after him,
Let him decide.
Nevertheless, we are also grooming talent. We have senior architects, we have project managers. So we have people in leadership roles for every project. So even though architect Pony and myself do the designs, but day-to-day coordination, we have project
Is
managers.
this systematized though? Do these leaders that you have identified, are they able to identify leaders themselves, or are you the people who are identifying leaders across your...
No, we give everyone an opportunity to take leadership roles. See, everyone cannot be a leader. See, as a leader, they have to be very mature to handle clients. You know, some people have their idiosyncrasies, so you cannot lose a client because of one of your staff. So we look at the maturity level, because sometimes clients can go crazy. I mean, they be hard on you. They can be nasty too. So they should be mature enough to take their reactions, suggestions, and diplomatically handle so that as principals, we do not lose out on the project. So we're very careful in grooming people into these leadership roles. And they should be also technically, they should be very proficient in the design, and they should be able to answer any technicalities. Leadership is managing the client as well as you should be good in technical expertise too. So we look at that talent, we groom it, and accordingly we put them on certain projects.
Thanks. Gunjan?
Like I mentioned earlier, we started the office with 2 senior partners, and they were from the government. So the whole culture started by them was very hierarchical.
Senior architect,
Yeah,
deputy senior architect, junior
yeah,
architect.
Yes. And eventually when, we took over and we were more involved, we've now changed the culture to a very team culture, which is very, very inclusive.
Clusters of work groups.
Yes, yes. And we give them a lot of freedom to do their own thing, but at the same time, we are overseeing the whole project. And we are doing a lot of collaborations with other designers and artists and, different, maybe even vendors. And so that is also really helped.
Have any of your collaborators contributed to your client base?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes. There
That's
are a couple of designers I work with who freelance. So when they get a client who they feel they can't handle on their own because they don't have the infrastructure,
Expertise bandwidth.
it works very, very well. So I think this whole inclusivity, working like a team, and that's another thing I've learned. I'm also the chairperson of Triple ID Bangalore chapter. I have learned that a lot. Shamini here is our honorary secretary at the national level. And we've learned a lot from that. And it's really nice the way we've been able to apply a lot of the learning. Big thing is collaboration, and that when you do things together, you can achieve a lot more. So that's how we work as a team. But just going back to the earlier topic of clients, when you were talking about the quality of clients and what they say, I have this client, which I did a small office project, celebrity client, and she came back to me for her home, and she gave me a fee which was more than what I would have asked her. So I was really happy. And, a lot of people tell me, I think you spend too much time with clients. I don't know if it's worth it. And, are you getting your value for it? But towards the end of the project, she insisted on coming to my office for a meeting when we were actually doing all the meetings at the site. And she came and offered me 20% more. So I feel
Brilliant.
that was a good, testimonial to what you do.
Indeed.
And it doesn't happen often.
Yeah, no, not
We are
at all.
constantly complaining about, low fees. And that's another thing in Bangalore with Triple ID. We are actually working on a fees manifesto to distribute, work with all our architects and designers that we have some kind of a standard which we can use as a benchmark to project our fees. And we shouldn't be losing out on projects to each other because one person's charging lesser than the other. So that's something
even
on a larger
having
scale.
these sort of communication channels open within amongst designers sort of helps you improve your own, sort of manage your growth and increase your growth as well.
Yes, because I feel the overall, the architects, the fraternity has to improve in terms of fees. And that's when they
That's
will...
a collective thing.
Yes. So we have to work at it collectively.
Cool. Thanks. Sanjay?
So, looking within, I think it's very important what Oscar was also saying, that you have these very well-defined roles, and to a certain extent, some kind of hierarchies within offices, And especially once the organization grows beyond a certain number, it becomes important because people have to know what their job descriptions are. You have to skill them. There have to be programs which you have for people within your office to get them and become better, whether it's communication or time management and stuff like that, you know. Because architects, there's nothing in our training which prepares us for the business of running architecture, you know. So there is nothing in our education nor in our training which actually prepares you for that. So you have to learn it on the job. So a lot of leadership grows within the office. The only person who doesn't follow the hierarchies in my studio is me. You know, so I'm the constant disruptor in this, and you know, constantly working with fresh architects, trainees. You know.
You get flack for that up the office?
Oh yes, all the time.
Good to know.
So, but I find that interesting, and you know, and that's what is nice about it.
So it's interesting. So even if there is a sort of a structure, there are possibilities
Yes, of disrupting that completely.
Not just because you're the boss.
No, not just because of that.
Yeah, okay.
And then I think it's also important that you draw in sometimes expertise from outside. I mean, the first time I did a hospital, I had no idea how to do one, so we did have to collaborate with a specialist. Sometimes, I mean, the first time we did a hotel, I had to go and hire a senior person. From
horizontal
the hotel,
hire.
So hire also.
Has that worked out, horizontal hiring?
Oh yes, I mean, this person that I hired has now been with us for about now 8 years, 9 years. So it's and we've got more of that. So it's kind of a mix of a lot. I'd like to do the collaborative model more. I think that's
in the coming future. Cool. So with that, I'd like to really thank my panel for their insights. I hope this has been as informative to you as it has been to me. I don't think there are any questions, right? We can.
We're
we
running
don't
out
have
of
time.
time,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So thank you all for being an attentive audience, and thank you once again.
Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our leaders. Leaders, this panel makes me wonder, what am I doing wrong in my life? My definition of a good client is has money, gives me some of that money, and look at you saying intellectually challenge me, creatively challenge me. You know, in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're aware of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I'm clearly at the bottom. Okay, so you've inspired me. Thank you so much. Leaders, can we have a big round of applause again? What a fantastic panel that was. Thank you so much. Of course, a group photograph awaits. A group photo, please. We request Ms. Vartika Dwivedi to please come on up and present all our speakers, all our panelists with the token of our appreciation.